Hi everybody, Dan Bailey here with another Fujifilm video for you. Today we're going to talk about the custom settings feature that's found on nearly every single X series model. I'm going to show you how to use these functions, why you might want to use the custom settings, how they can be beneficial not only to your creativity, but also your efficiency with the cameras. I'll also talk about the newest 5th gen models, the X-T5 and the two new XH series cameras, and how these differ and some of the features that these have that the other ones don't have. Before I get started though, just want to take a minute to let you guys know about my newest online course. It's called Mastering the Fujifilm Autofocus System. This is a comprehensive course with 30 different lessons in 20 different modules that run you all the way through every single focus feature and setting that's found on your Fuji camera. For every single setting, I tell you how it works, what it does, and how you can use it in your own shooting. And I also give you my pro tips so that you can get the absolute best performance when you're shooting things like moving subjects with your X series camera. It's essential knowledge for any X series shooter, so if you want to check that out, you can follow this link right here. Okay, let's get started. Every single model since the X Pro 2 has a custom settings function that features 7 slots, those C1 through 7 slots, that allow you to store and recall custom shooting presets. Now, one exception is the XS10, which only has 4 custom slots, but on every model you can find them inside the Q menu, and on the cameras that have a mode dial, like the XH models and the XS10, you'll find those C1 through 7 slots right on the top of the dial. And so basically these C1 through 7 custom slots allow you to store a number of presets that you design that can reflect any kind of creative or stylistic shooting that you like to do on your Fuji, or that reflect the types of subjects that you like to shoot, where having a specific preset could make you a more efficient shooter or just allow you to capture it in the way that you like to photograph. For example, maybe you want a landscape preset for sunny days that has Velvia Film Sim and auto white balance and any other parameters that you might choose. And maybe you'll have a preset for street photography that has classic chrome and a slight bump in the shadow tone for a slightly more gritty look. And maybe a portrait preset with Pro Neg Standard and pulling back on the shadow tones for a softer look. Or maybe a different white balance. And the idea is that if you come across a scene, you don't have to make all of those adjustments in your camera. You don't have to, well, okay, I need to set this, and then set this menu, and then, okay. You just have to switch to that preset, and all of those settings will be ready to go. So that just makes you a more efficient shooter. And it can also allow you to create these specific recipes that you might find, maybe on Richie Roche's Fuji X Weekly site, and you can store those in there and recall those for the kinds of subjects that you like to shoot. To change any of the C1 through 7 slots, go into the Image Quality menu tab, and then scroll down till you see Edit Save Custom Setting. And once you're in that menu, you'll be able to choose from any of the 7 slots, and when you select one, you should see a menu item that says Edit or Edit Check. And once you've selected a preset and hit Edit, you can go in and choose any of those parameters that you see and add those to your custom slot. And on almost every model, the items that you can add to a custom setting are found in the Image Quality menu. There are things like film simulation, white balance, color chrome effect, grain effect, highlight shadow tone, color, noise reduction, sharpness, and dynamic range. So once you've selected each one of those that you want and made the necessary adjustments, like to highlight and shadow tone, follow the menu prompts to save that to the slot. Another option is to use the function called Save Current Setting. Let's say you have a preset called Landscapes, and it's set for Velvia with auto white balance. Let's say you want to choose that to Astia instead of Velvia. You could set your camera up that way, and then go into the Edit Save Custom Settings menu, and then use the Save Current Settings menu option, and that'll write all of the parameters that are currently set to your camera to that custom bank. Either way, when you're done, whether you've created a new preset or saved to a current preset, hit back to confirm the setting, and then follow the prompts to save it by hitting OK. And you can even give it a custom name. Almost all models allow you 25 characters or spaces where you can create your own names for your own presets. So for example, here's a custom preset that I had created a few years ago. It uses classic chrome film simulation with a -1 highlight tone and +3 shadow tone to give it a really edgy, gritty, dark look. I really enjoyed using that recipe for a lot of different subject matter, so I could instantly recall that, and I even named it something fun. I think I called it Down and Dirty. Okay, so to run back through that really quickly, you go into the Edit Save Custom Settings menu, choose one of your C1 through 7 slots, hit Edit or Save Current Settings, and then configure that preset, choose all the settings you want to be included that, and then hit Back and OK to confirm and save it. And then when you're out shooting and you want to recall any one of those presets, you can go into the Q menu and select C1 through 7, or if your camera has a mode dial with those C1 through 7 slots right on the top deck, you can just turn the dial and select it there. With the X-T4, if your camera is set to still, you have 7 still preset banks that you can choose. If you flip that switch to movie, you have 7 additional slots where you can create different movie presets. Now we're going to talk about the new 5th gen models. The X-T5, the X-H2, and the X-H2S, and likely any camera that comes after those, have even more options for saving, storing, and recalling these custom settings. First of all, these new 5th gen X-Series cameras have way more setting options that you can add to a custom setting slot. On all previous models, you were limited to using only items from the image quality menu that you could save to a custom setting. These new 5th gen models add to that, allowing you to save not only image quality settings, but also a number of autofocus settings and camera shooting settings as well. So you can save and configure things like the AFC custom settings, store AF mode by orientation, subject detect autofocus, manual assist focus, sports finder mode, shutter type, pre-shot ES, even things like interval timer shooting and auto ISO settings. So you're able to save not only creative type settings, but also performance-based settings that allow for specialized shooting situations or for capturing specific subject types that you like to shoot with much more efficiency and performance. Let's say you like to photograph birds. You could create a custom preset that has AFC custom settings parameter as you like, that also has subject detect birds. Maybe it has pre-shot ES, maybe it has electronic shutter type, or auto ISO, because we know that a lot of times you're capturing birds in varying light. And then maybe you create a different preset for photographing your kid's soccer game, which has much more erratic motion and would thus have a different autofocus custom setting preset. You'd probably turn subject detect off, but maybe face detection on. So yeah, there's a huge range of parameters and settings you can add to a custom slot. Basically, anything that's not grayed out when you're selecting parameters can be used. From data rate to frame rate, aspect ratio, any of the microphone and audio settings, timecode settings, movie file output destination, F-log, high-speed recording. And so this allows you the flexibility to create movie and video presets that can cover a wide range of shooting situations. Maybe you'll have a cinema preset for shooting the highest quality and outputting to HDMI, with Eternifilm simulation shooting an F-log, and then maybe you'll have a vlogging setup with reduced image quality and output settings. Maybe you'll have one for sports with a higher bit rate, portraits, low light, any kind of situation you could think of. And to change parameters on the new 5th gen, it's pretty much the same method. On the X-T5, you go into the image quality menu, scroll down until you find Edit, Save Custom Settings, choose one of the 7 slots, and then hit Edit, Check, and Proceed, just like normal. Again, anything that's not grayed out, you can add, change the parameters, hit back to confirm, hit OK to save. If the shooting dial is in still, you've got 7 still presets. If it's a movie, you can do your 7 movie presets. On the new XH models, it's a little bit different. When you go to Edit Save Custom Settings, you can choose C1 through 7, and you can designate that as to whether it's a movie or a still slot, and then proceed as normal. And of course, with the Edit Check setting, you can always go back and redo or change any of the parameters in these slots that you've set. And as before, you could even give it a custom name, or you can copy an entire preset and paste it to another slot. In addition to allowing you to save more parameters to a setting, The new 5th Gen models also allow you more ways to access and recall these custom setting presets. In addition to the Q menu and the mode dial on the XH models, you also have a function button called Select Custom Setting. So if you assign that to one of your function buttons, you can press that button, scroll through with a joystick, and quickly select your desired preset. And as I talked about in my last video, these new cameras also have a function button called Recall C1 Setting. And so with a single button press, you can instantly recall whatever you have saved to your C1 slot. So maybe your C1 preset would be something that would require a lot of configuration, like best example I can think of is for shooting fast action or birds, when you've got a number of different parameters and settings to configure in order to capture that ultra fast action in difficult light. So you're out shooting landscapes and people and street scenes, and then you suddenly see some birds, hit that function button, your camera is instantly configured for shooting fast action. The XH2 and XH2S also have a specific function that's not found on the X-T5. On the X-T5, as it is on most X-Series cameras, focus mode is controlled by the AF selector switch. And this is where you choose between AFS, AFC, and M, or single autofocus, continuous autofocus, or manual focus. On the XH2 and XH2S, instead of the AF selector switch, instead of a physical switch here, you have a function button. So you press that button, scroll through with a joystick to choose SC or M. And this also means that focus mode on these cameras can be assigned to a custom setting configuration. So you could set up your action configuration, your action preset, with AFC. And so if you're walking around shooting pictures and suddenly you see fast action, you don't have to make this extra step of flipping that switch to C. You go to your custom preset for action, and it's already configured. Now obviously it's not a huge deal to flip this little switch. If you're a well-practiced photographer, then it's not that big a deal, but it's just one more thing that can give you a little bit more efficiency when you're faced with a very fast-breaking situation. And a lot of times, getting great photos comes down to efficiency with the system. And if you're using one of the new 5th Gen models, there's one more setting that you need to be aware of. And it's something that's already causing a lot of confusion with photographers out there. Just below Edit Save Custom Settings in the menu, there's a setting called Auto Update Custom Setting. And this has two parameters, enable and disable. If this is enabled, then any changes you make to the camera on the fly will instantly overwrite whatever preset you're currently shooting in. So in my example again, got a landscape preset, maybe it's got Velvia with auto white balance, and you like to use that a lot. Then the clouds come over and you switch to shade white balance and Astia, which can work better under cloudy conditions. And you shoot like that for a while and turn the camera off. When you turn the camera back on, that custom setting slot will now be written with Astia and shade white balance. Your original settings will be written over. So if you want those, you'll have to go back and change them. So any changes you make on the fly will instantly be changed in whatever custom preset you're shooting in. However, if you disable Auto Update Custom Setting, any changes you make in the camera will not overwrite that. So in the example, we're out shooting with Velvia, auto white balance, and then we decide to switch to Astia, then we decide to switch to Eternal Bleach Bypass, we turn Color Chrome Effect on, we switch to Acros, we crank up the grain setting, and then we switch to a different preset and we turn the camera off. Come back, switch to that landscape preset. If Auto Update Custom Setting is disabled, it's going to go back to your original Velvia with auto white balance. So if you have one of these new 5th Gen models, this is something to be aware of. Inevitably, you're going to fiddle with the camera when you're out there. If you don't want those changes to be written to your custom preset, then you'll want to make sure that Auto Update Custom Setting is disabled. And if you don't care, if you want any changes you make to be written to that setting, keep it enabled. Okay, that's all. That was a lot of information. I hope it's cleared up how to use custom settings, how they can be beneficial to your shooting, and some of the specifics on how to set them up, how to change them, and the new features that the 5th Gen models have over most of the other X-Series cameras. If you have any questions as to how this works or you're having trouble figuring it out, please leave a question in the comment section below, And of course, if you are a Fuji shooter, you'll definitely want to check out my best-selling ebook, X-Series Unlimited. It's a 400-page guidebook that'll show you everything you need to know in order to get the best performance and have the most fun with your Fuji camera. It's basically the missing manual to the X-Series. So thanks very much for watching this video. Please subscribe to my channel. Check out some of my other videos. You can find me on social media and Patreon at Dan Bailey Photo. You can visit my blog and website as well. So take care, happy shooting, and I'll see you next time.